morning, Ed here from Crystal Clear Aquatics, and I've come back to do another Ponds Revisited, which is something I haven't done for a little while. Something I always look forward to. It's always nice to come back and see a bit of your work, how it's establishing. And this is a job that I had completed towards the latter part of 2020, so it's had nearly 3 years now to settle down and establish. And I keep coming back to this pond in spring doing work, but it's never the best time to have a look at it and to showcase it. So I was desperate to come back in the summer. It's not the nicest of day-to-days, but I was working next door, so I had to jump on it to pop over and have a look at this pond, and I'm not disappointed. Look at that, lots of baby rudd. Lovely to see how the plants and the livestock have established in here. So a little while after this job was completed, I introduced just half a dozen adult rudd. They weren't really very visible for the first year or so, but I know that rudd are going to continue to spawn quite prolifically actually, and in a pond like this they should thrive and do very well. And now we've got a nice shoal of a few different generations, some little tiny babies, a few juniors and a few adults, and they're looking lovely in here. And the heron's going to come along and take a few, but such is life and the balance of a natural pond like this. It'll help to keep the numbers down. Lilies have come up nicely, producing some nice pads of foliage. I think this is something that we're going to improve upon later on this year and just add another couple of big baskets of lilies just to provide a little bit more surface cover, and they look beautiful. There's no yellows, so it'll be nice to put a yellow lily in here. The pickerels and the Carex around good old Sally here have done very well, in fact a little bit too well. They could do with thinning out a little bit, but I think it looks lovely having her just poking out. There's a few bits of plant that need to be removed from in front of her, but that can be done later on in the year. The cascade is really established nicely. Much less rock visible now that the surrounding grass and plants have sort of crept over and softened the edging, and that's exactly what I like to see with a waterfall, just to make it look like the water has worn away some of the surface earth, revealing some of the sort of ground rock beneath. Filtration's doing a great job of keeping this clean. There's obviously minimal load in the pond, rudd being pretty clean fish. It's not like it's a koi pond, but that one screen-o-matic filtration system is doing a great job of keeping this clear. Looks like the iris has put on a good show earlier on this early summer. Lots and lots of flower buds. In fact, these really now want to get trimmed off and cut off. They get a bit heavy and flop over and make the plants look a little bit messy. So there's a bit of plant maintenance that could be done to this in the summer. But I bet this was a real picture a few weeks ago. Beautifully clear and looking nice and natural. There's a reasonable build-up of sediment, organic matter in the bottom of the ponds, but in a natural pond like this, that's desirable really. A small amount of this is really beneficial. Lots and lots of habitat for overwintering amphibians, places for the rudd to hide. And for me, this is the star of the show. Water movement, the sound of water, very, very important. And that York stone now has really started to establish with lichens and algae and moss. Sounding nice and natural. A couple of years has seen the trees around the filtration just mature that bit more to make it a bit more discreet. There's still space to get in there for maintenance, but it's not visible. and that's barely ticking over. There's always very little waste in here because the load is that light. Doing a wonderful job of keeping this pond nice and clean and with very little maintenance. Oh, it's a lovely spot just to sit here on the patio when the sun comes out, have a cup of tea or a coffee or a beer and just watch the wildlife. So there's a little shoal of baby rudd right at the edge here, right next to me. Some damselflies hovering around my feet, sitting on the bog bean and the irises, and I've just got the little tinkle of water from the statue next to me as Sally's splashing away. It was a hard slog doing this job. I remember this one very well. At the time, well, it probably still is actually, the biggest volume, the biggest size pond that I have worked on. Obviously there was an existing pond already here and it was a case of relining it and redesigning it. I'll pop in the description below the link to this video if you're interested. But it was always a job that I thought would look fantastic in this setting. You know, having the established woodland behind here is a real picture for the pond. So as soon as it was done, it looked great, you know, straight away. It wasn't one of these things that needed a year or two to establish, such as a lot of jobs in gardens. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to just sit here on my own for a few minutes and have a reminisce, and then it's on to the next job. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Ed from Crystal Clear Aquatics, and I will see you in the next pond. Cheers.